Hi, folks. Andy here, and here are 3 breaking cybersecurity stories that you need to know about. First up, a 19-year-old is accused of running with Scattered Spider and just got dragged, kicking and screaming, out of Finland and dropped straight into a Chicago courtroom. His name is Peter Stokes, and he's a dual U.S. and Estonian citizen, and on June 30th, a federal judge ordered him held in custody. The Justice Department announced the extradition a day later. He's facing conspiracy, computer intrusion, and fraud charges. I think we can all agree this little punk is in a world of hurt right about now. Now, if you haven't heard of the name Scattered Spider, I can catch you up. I've been following this crew for a few years now. This is the group that's tied to some of the biggest hacks over the last few years. And the thing is, though, their playbook isn't full of fancy 0 days or exploits. No, their weapon of choice is just simple social engineering. What they'll do is they'll call help desks and impersonate employees and then just talk their way past MFA resets. This lets them pivot into cloud environments, identity providers, or any other system that they want. And their playbook is, again, just simple social engineering with just that little bit of technical follow-through that lets them do the data exfil and extortion. Now, here's why this extradition actually matters and why you should be paying attention here. Scattered Spider is mostly made up of English-speaking teenagers and young adults scattered across the US, the UK, and now clearly parts of Europe. And for the longest time, the joke was that these kids were untouchable because, well, they were minors, and because cross-border cases move at glacial speeds. But I think we can all agree that that excuse is starting to die. I mean, Finland handed Stokes over without any pushback. The UK arrested 5 suspected members last year, and Spain grabbed another. Yeah, the net's tightening, skiddies, so start picking out your prison nicknames now, okay? Yeah. Now, the evidence against Stokes here is getting really interesting here, and it hasn't been fully unsealed yet, but what we do know is that prosecutors are tying him to intrusions and fraud tied to the group's broader campaign. So expect more names, more indictments, and more countries cooperating over the next coming months. So what's next? I'm curious to see whether Stokes flips. I mean, a 19-year-old facing down federal computer intrusion charges in Chicago has a lot of incentive to name names here. I'm kind of hoping this kid snitches harder than Tekashi 6ix9ine. Anyways, the takeaway here for all of us defenders is this, okay? Your help desk is still the front door. If your identity verification for password and MFA resets can be beaten by a confident phone call, you will be the next victim. Moving on to our next story. Medtronic, the pacemaker people, are now notifying customers that their personal data ended up in the hands of ShinyHunters. But let's not go all torches and pitchforks on Medtronic just yet. This wasn't Medtronic's own systems getting popped. This was Salesforce. Again, same playbook we've been seeing play out all year, but this time it's just a different victim name on the headline. Here's what's happening. ShinyHunters ran their social engineering campaign against Salesforce customers, tricking employees into authorizing malicious OAuth apps that then vacuum data out of CRM instances. Medtronic just happened to be one of the orgs caught in that sweep. The intrusion happened earlier this year, but just now were notification letters being sent to affected individuals. And as far as the leaked data goes, we're talking about names, contact information, dates of birth, and in some cases, health-related data tied to the medical devices Medtronic sells. So this isn't just marketing fluff sitting in a Salesforce instance. This is PII linked to patients who have cardiac devices, insulin pumps, and neurological implants. And that's a very specific, very sensitive population to have medical information floating around on a criminal forum. Now, Medtronic hasn't published a hard customer count, but given that ShinyHunters has hit dozens of major Salesforce instances, including Google, Cisco, Qantas, and a long list of others, I expect the affected number here to be substantial. Now, as far as the response goes from Medtronic says that no device functionality was affected, no clinical systems were breached, and the exposure was limited to just that Salesforce environment, which is comforting, I guess. But the fact that a medical device manufacturer had patient-adjacent data sitting in a CRM that could be siphoned out through an OAuth token, that's the part that raises my concern. So, if you're a Medtronic patient or customer, watch for phishing that name drops your specific device or condition. That's the real risk here. Also, rotate any password reused with your Medtronic account, enable multi-factor, and if you get a call claiming to be from Medtronic support, hang up immediately and then dial them back through the official number. Moving on to our last story of the day. Mac users, listen up, you're today's target. Researchers just uncovered a brand new piece of macOS malware called PAMStealer, and it's using some genuinely clever tradecraft to swipe credentials right off your machine. Yeah, this isn't your run-of-the-mill malware garbage either. This is custom-built, Rust-written, and quiet. Here's how it goes down. The malware ships inside a disk image pretending to be Mackie. That's a legitimate clipboard manager a lot of Mac users actually use, so the disguise is pretty convincing. Now, once you mount the DMG and launch it, stage 1 kicks off. It's a compiled Apple script and is doing something unusual. Instead of pulling down stage 2 over HTTP like most droppers do, this abuses custom URL schemes to hand off execution. That trick helps it slip past a lot of the network-based detection that most people rely on. Now, stage 2 is where PAMStealer gets its name. The info stealer hooks into PAM, the pluggable authentication modules framework macOS uses to handle logins. So, by sitting inside PAM, the malware sees your password in clear text the moment you type it. So, pseudo prompts, login screens, anything that touches the authentication. Yeah, so basically it's clear text credentials scraped straight from the source. So again, keychain contents, browser sessions, SSH keys, crypto wallets if you keep them on your machine. Really, anything that the attacker can pivot with is what they're going to get access to. Who all is affected here? Well, anybody who grabbed a sketchy copy of Mackie from that unofficial source. Distribution channels aren't fully mapped out yet, so watch for it landing on typo-squatted download sites, cracked software repos, and search ad poisoning campaigns. That's the usual playbook. Now, this is kind of interesting here. As far as responses go, well, there's no vendor to hold accountable here. This is a fresh threat, and detections are still catching up across major EDR products, so keep an eye out. What should you do? Well, if you've installed Mackie recently, you want to verify you pulled it down from the official source. Now, if you can't confirm that, assume compromise. Rotate every password that you've typed on that Mac, revoke your browser sessions, rotate all your SSH keys, and pull your keychain apart. And stop trusting DMG files just because they look polished. Don't be so gullible. All right, folks. Well, that about wraps up today's stories. This is Andy Thompson signing off.